Why are my low notes so quiet and what am I going to do about it? Well, you need to know that it's not all your fault. We play on a cylindrical board. In other words, the radius of our flute is the same at the top as it is at the foot joint. So as we close off all these keys here, the air has to travel further to get down here. It's a bit harder work. So whilst you're sitting in a band rehearsal and all these clarinet players and saxophone players are playing their meaty bottom notes and you're thinking, why can't I do that? That's why. That plus a few other things, which I'm going to talk to you about in a second. Okay, so we could carry on saying it's not our fault, but actually, no listener cares. They just want to hear low notes and they want to hear them whether they're forte, piano, they want to hear them brilliantly like the rest of your playing. So, first things first, I'm assuming that your flute is regularly serviced because that is crucial. You'll not get down to these bottom notes unless all the pads are in great nick and as you put your fingers down, they make proper contact. That's the first thing. Next thing is going to be even harder if you have got little hands, and by little hands I mean children's hands. So if you are a child and you are trying to stretch right down to this low C key and down to the D key down there, you might find that your pinky isn't quite long enough just yet and you struggle to work all these three keys separately. That's often one of the reasons why it's not a beginner note. If you've got a good teacher, they'll introduce this at the right time for you. But know that if you've got little hands, you need to really work at spreading your fingers. I like to think of spreading it in there rather than stretching the end of it, just to get that extra length down there. So on the topic of your little finger, you need to make sure as you go down for your C sharp and your C, that you're not letting your little finger touch this E flat key. If it even glances at it, it'll just vent this key at the back and therefore make these bottom notes impossible. So make sure that you're stretched right down there. Good to check your right hand position. I've got a video on how to check that right hand position as well, so that your hand isn't too twisted and therefore it'll catch that E flat key. So nice and straight in your hand, you'll get down to that low C key. So down to the nitty gritty, like everything else, it's practice. If you were going to stretch out your hamstring, it's not going to happen in one day. You've got to do it over time. So we need to work at these low notes, but there's certain things we can think about to make them a little bit easier. The first is the speed of the air. Don't use fast air. It's slow air that you want for your low notes. Slow doesn't mean weak. It needs to have good pressure behind it. And when I say pressure, I don't mean tension. Here, proper pressure from down here. Keep it slow and steady. Okay, so we've slowed down the air. We now want to have a think about the direction of the air. So we know that the high notes live higher up on the riser, just on the inside of the flute. You can think of aiming the air higher up. The low notes are much further down. That sounds like you're going to make gigantic movements with your lower jaw. Not so. Remember, this riser is very, very small, so it's these fine muscles here that are going to direct the airflow. For the low notes, we want a slightly longer embouchure, sort of flatter shape, still with the control in these middle muscles there, but beware, don't squeeze the corners of your mouth. So if you pull back there, that will give you a longer, flatter embouchure, but it will be far too tight for these low notes. You need to keep this nice and relaxed with the control in the middle of the lips. Okay, so we're nice and relaxed in our throat, our head's in a good playing position, we've got nice relaxed cheeks, we're bringing our bottom jaw back slightly with a longer, flatter embouchure. We're ready to go. Is it that easy? No, probably not. We need to coax these bottom notes out of ourselves. So I'm just working at them on a daily basis will show massive improvement. So go down in semitones. lastly, repeating your low C's is a great idea because it helps you to work out how your tongue is going to move to let that hot air through. So bit by bit, trying to make your sound as even as possible. Any lumps or bumps, go back through, take your time, be very, very patient. Allow your embouchure to find its own way. You keep an eye on keeping all the tension out of it and thinking of that lip shape, and your embouchure will find the right place for you, for your lip shape, because we're all different, to make these low notes really, really go. Other exercises you can use, the Trevor Y book has got lots of good tips in the tone section for that. De La Sonority, of course, if you're lucky enough to own it. But you can't do much better than slurred octaves either, are just going down in semitones. Remember, these are not beginner notes. In the UK, they don't really appear in repertoire till about grade 4, but start them early so you can build them up, and then you can dazzle people with how you can really control the sound down there.